Have you ever felt like your energy is completely drained, that your favorite activity no longer brings you joy? Or maybe you had to force yourself to work? If your answer is yes, then this video is for you. I used to have a hobby that I practically lived for. I loved writing. It was my passion and my escape. But one day I pushed myself so hard that I completely burned out. When I was in college, I worked as a class president. It was a huge responsibility. I had to track in attendance, organizing events, communicating with teachers, helping classmates, and more. At the same time, I tried to keep studying and keep writing. Whenever I could, I took part in Instagram writing marathons and learned something new. At one point, I even bought and completed a writing course. I gave everything I had both to college and to writing. And eventually, I got sick every single month. For a whole month. My body simply shut down because it had no other way to stop me. But even then, I didn't listen. If a writing marathon had a deadline, I would finish the story even in zombie mode. By the way, I made a video about deadline. If you are interested, link is down this video in description. I would tell you where to read the stories that I once wrote, but there are 3 reasons I can't. They are not in English, I've archived all of them, and I plan to rewrite them and release a few collections in the future. But how far away that future is, I don't know. It's been 2 years since then. I occasionally return to writing, but I can't stick with it for long. I just don't have the strength, the energy, or the desire. For a long time, I couldn't figure it out what was wrong with me. I love writing, don't I? I want to do it. So why is it so hard to start again? Then I read about burnout. It's a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. It happens when you give more than you can without giving yourself time to recover. The hardest part began when I achieved the acute stage of burnout. I scolded myself for not being able to work like I used to. I felt like I had to write, create masterpieces, or at least finish that I'd started long ago. I constantly compared myself to other writers. They can do it. Why can't I? What's wrong with me? These thoughts ate away at me even more. Burnout can happen to anyone, but the cases are often similar. Constant work without rest. No matter how passionate you are about your job or hobby, you must take time to rest. Just sleeping isn't always enough. To prevent burnout, give yourself at least 1 or 2 days a week to recharge. But if you are already burnt out, that won't be enough, unfortunately. You need a longer break. How long depends on how severe your burnout is. Working from home. In my experience, when you work from home, the line between work and personal life blurs or disappears entirely. I went through a period where I worked without weekends. I needed the money and didn't want to lose my students. My therapist advised me to start by taking at least 1 day off and not scheduling any lessons on that day. I also desperately needed some sort of vacation. At that point, I had been working for 2 years without weekends or holidays. Terrible, right? I decided to take time off during the winter holidays, New Year's, Christmas, and my birthday. At the beginning of the next year, I visited my grandmother in the countryside. There was no internet at all. In those 3 weeks, I rested, and I don't regret at all. The sense of duty that keeps you from stopping and the habit of putting yourself second. As I mentioned, this is exhausted. You can't escape from yourself. If you blame yourself for being tired and unable to keep going, please seek help from a specialist. Honestly, I couldn't have managed without one. Comparing yourself to others. This only makes the guilt worse. Honestly, I'm still working through this. I've realized that I need to learn how to take care of myself. I've stopped demanding that I be that person. Productive, inspired, perfect. Instead, I've started listening to myself. If I want to write, I write. If I don't, I let myself rest. Sometimes I allow myself to do nothing, or I listen to my favorite music, or I write not for anyone else or to meet a deadline, but for myself. If you feel like you are starting to burn out, stop. No one else will do it for you. Find something that inspires you, even if it's just walk or a movie. Stop comparing yourself to others. Everyone has their own path and their own pace. And remember, burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've been strong for too long. Treat it as a signal that you need to rest. Share your experience in the comments. It might help not just me, but others as well. And I'll see you in the next or previous video. Bye bye. See you later.